Hi all, this is Julia Lefakane, manager of the Business Lab, listening to this talk podcast on employment equity and what it means for your business.
Good afternoon, all. Welcome to our first episode of BizTalks podcast. My name is Jivesh Timmal. I'm the Group CEO of Timmal Investment Holdings. And today we're going to be talking to Julia Lefakane from the Business Lab. She's going to tell us a little bit about the company and who she is in the big mix of things. And then we're going to be touching base on employment equity. We'll touch more on what is employment equity, what it means for your business, and then ultimately why employment equity at all. So let me hand over to Julia to do her intro before we start with the interview.
My name is Julia Lefakane. I started at Timmal Holdings working under Skills College as a student advisor. Through my hard work, I got promoted to the Business Lab to be a client relation officer, COO. Also through my hard work, I got promoted to be the Business Lab manager. That's why I'm sitting here today.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's exactly the story. Julia has come up through the ranks, so that's why she can sit here and talk to us about employment equity. And now, as the manager of the Business Lab, there'd be no one better suited to sit with and talk about what is employment equity. So it's not going to be a very long podcast. We're just going to go through these questions, and we can dive into any other questions that may come off whatever we're talking about. But let's start at the very top on intros and backgrounds. What attracted you to the Business Lab, and what are you looking to achieve in your new role as the manager at the Business Lab?
What attracted me to Business Lab was the opportunities and also the growth and also increasing my knowledge with what Business Lab was offering. As when I was in Skills College, it was no much, it was limited products. So with Business Lab, it increased my knowledge of compliance, in terms of BE, skills development, and also employment equity.
Yeah.
And also in terms of developing and executing strategies to attract new clients, and while also strengthening the relationship with our current clients.
Yeah.
Yes, and also increasing our database of new clients and also making sure that we service our clients and they are satisfied, and applying funding for them to grow their business.
How many clients would you say Business Lab has currently?
Okay, estimate of clients that we have with Business Lab, it's 150, plus minus 150.
Okay, that's good. And how old is the Business Lab exactly?
Business Lab is 22 years, so it was previously known as Skills College.
Yeah.
So as things change within the CETAs where companies had to get accredited and being SDF, so Business Lab had to move from Skills College to be SDF compliant.
An independent body.
Yes, independent body.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say it's 22 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. That's a long time. So for those who may not be familiar with the Business Lab, can you give us an overview of what does the Business Lab do exactly, and what is its mission?
Okay, what we do as the Business Lab, we are an organization that provides us various services to companies. We do BE compliance, so we prepare companies for their verification to BE. We do skills development and workplace skills plans to the CETA, ensuring that companies are BE compliant, and we also do employment equity submissions. It also goes to be compliant, and we also assist companies to claim back their tax incentives for employed and unemployed training that they've done.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think sometimes it's often misconstrued as to what is compliance, but what needs to be understood about compliance is that it unlocks growth for your business.
Yes.
So you're talking about tax incentives, you're talking about BEE. These become sort of administrative, very compliant words, but it's literally what you need to grow your business.
Definitely.
So Business Lab, when I say we, obviously I'm part of the group, is that the Business Lab helps you to unlock growth through compliance.
Yes.
Without going through too many abbreviations, because what happens in the environment of the Business Lab becomes very sort of WSP and the SAR and the LTI. But ultimately, I think that would sum it up. Just ensuring compliances for sufficient growth, unlocking new ways of growth, opportunities.
And also what we do with Business Lab is mostly because we are more focused on skills development, for companies to skill develop their employees, which it also helps for company growth. So when you develop your employees, it gives them more knowledge and they become more sufficient for you for the company. And we also offer coaching and mentoring for companies, and we also do workshops addressing their challenges that they may be facing, and also see how we can assist them through their challenges.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think if anyone has good insight of the real challenges being faced in the business sector, it's a consulting agency that's been working for the last 22 years. So I wanted to talk about that. What are some of the challenges that are being faced by SMEs today, and how is Business Lab addressing those?
Okay, the challenges that SMEs are facing, it's funding. Number one, it's funding. So due to COVID, some companies they've battled and they are battling to recover.
Sure.
So funding is a problem for companies. So what we do is we assist companies to apply for funding for them through different areas. And also we work more closely with the SETA. So we are able to apply for discretionary grants for you. So it's a funding the way you can be able to empower your employees through internship, through training, and also you applying us applying internships for you. It brings a workforce for you to increase your productivity in the company.
Absolutely, and that's a good one, because a lot of people, when they are facing challenges in their business, they pull away from training, where it should be the opposite. You should invest more in the people you have.
Yes, investing more in the people you have. So you don't really have to spend the money from the company. As long as you submit your workplace skills plan, so the money that you claim back, you get back the 30%. You invest that money into your employees. You use that money for training.
Yes.
And also you submitting your workplace skills plan to the city, it also gives you a higher chance for you to be granted grants, for you to increase your staff profile, to bring on learnerships and also apprenticeships into your company.
Yeah. And I think ultimately also what's important for business owners to know is that there's a tax incentive at the end.
Yes, at the end of the whole training, what you can do is you can claim tax incentives if you train your employees your employees or unemployed learners, and also for disability people, you can also be able to claim tax incentives. So what SARS do? They give you credit, so you don't have to pay SARS. So you have a credit with SARS then.
Excellent. No, I mean, tax is the way for business to make money. Yes. Can you maybe share some success stories you may have had at the Business Lab, on how you may have helped some of these small business grow and thrive with the services that you offer?
Okay, with the services that we offer, we worked with a lot of companies, like one of our clients. So, for instance, we've got blind cricket essays that we are assisting them with transport through one of our clients. We have Olympic essays, so we put through interns. Wow. 2 Olympic essays for the whole 12 months. So they had a workforce. They were able to push their workforce, and also our interns working for them, they were applying funding for them, which they did manage to get funding. And we're also working with verification agencies. There were interns that we placed by them for under accounting. So towards the end of their internship, they were able to absorb some of the interns. So we don't only help companies. So we help companies and also individuals for unemployment. So we also worked with companies that is Maverick Trading. So under Maverick Trading, we managed to get interns for them, and those interns, there were 5 of them, they were absorbed by the company. So we also help economy, to reduce unemployment in South Africa. That's what we do. So through BizLab, we can do a lot to help companies. So should a company needs more work, you don't have workforce, we can apply for learnerships for you, bring on internships, and we assure you that the SETA, they do pay their stipend, and we will also make sure that it all run out smoothly, as we will administrate the whole process for the whole 12 months.
Agreed. And I think internships are underrated, and it's a big thing in South Africa right now. A lot of the SETAs are looking, because we have a lot of graduates and a lot of unemployment. So someone's looking to bridge that gap, and I think that's where Business Lab steps in. We've had a lot of interns. We have an intern behind the camera today as well. And I can tell you, you bring on interns, and you may not take all of them in your employ, but there's the cream of the crop of people who worked in your business, in your processes, who maybe you align on the same values as well. And it makes for such a good transition for them to just move them into employment. And you don't have to make a call at a one interview.
No,
you know, you get a 12 months to sort of see whether this person is relevant. So
it
as this,
also helps the individuals, being on an internship after 12 months, it helps you to be employable after
Yes.
that. Because, people, they graduate, they sit at home, there's no work for them. So
yeah,
also being on internships, it helps them being employable.
absolutely.
Because when they're at universities and all, they don't get the work experience. So that's why we need these internships. We need to apply for funding to place. So companies must push to apply for fundings to have these internships to reduce unemployment in South Africa.
So that's a very important point, and I'd like to reiterate that if companies want to be involved in addressing unemployment in the country, they need to open their minds to internships. And I know it's a lot of times seen as a hassle, like, oh, I'm going to have an intern here and whatever it is. But if you really want to address unemployment and say you don't have the funds to employ hundreds and hundreds of people, the way you can do it is working through partners like the Business Lab to get internships in. And you're not paying for the individual. You're getting to obviously benefit of them doing work at your company. So I think it's an important thing that private sector hears that call for, let them in through the doors, let them go shoulder to shoulder with what it's like in the industry. I think we can have a more successful workforce and a better placement rate for unemployed. Cool. Julia, as the manager, what are your top priorities for this coming year for the Business Lab?
My top priorities for Business Lab is to increase our clientele and also making sure that the current clients that we have, so client satisfaction, they are happy, and also getting feedback from them. So that will also assist us knowing where we need to improve our services, and also us providing monthly training to them. We're also giving back to clients because every month we give them monthly training. So we're giving back as we are skilling their employees through our free monthly trainings. Yes, and also my plan is for client retention and growth. Yes, because that's number one priority. So once we've got client retention and growth, then I'm also able to grow my team. Make sure I've got a strong team that will be able to give satisfying and number one service to our clients.
Absolutely, I think servicing the clients is a big part of it. So, are there any new initiatives or programs that you may be particularly excited about?
Yes, we're excited that we've got a employment equity session coming up.
Okay.
So we're gonna be giving employment equity session coming up as it's employment equity time, as we want to make sure that our clients and anybody out there who has no information on employment equity, they submit correct plans, they do correct submission to the Department of Labor so it doesn't come back to them as funding.
Absolutely.
And also we've got free webinars that we give to community within us. So we are also giving back to our community and to also anyone who wants to to learn and have more knowledge. So we're giving free and monthly. There's also free webinars, free training, and we're also giving legal advices through our sister company SBCA.
Yeah. That's good. So employment equity. I would like to summarize what is employment equity. Right? And a lot of people see it as a very scary word because one, if you don't do employment equity and you've met the threshold and you are basically qualified to do it, Department of Labor comes to your door, and if you're non-compliant, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a fine starting at
1.2 million.
1.2 million or 10% of net profit after tax.
Yes, and should they keep finding findings and you're not correcting your findings, there might be criminal charge to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So employment equity was basically instituted after apartheid ended in the country. Law was written in on how do we balance out the scale. So it was equitable employment opportunities for all. That means those who are previously advantaged may experience a disadvantage, and those who are previously disadvantaged need an advantage. That's the only way we can create equity. So when you talk employment equity, sometimes you've got in the sphere, you may be, oh my God, what is this thing? Or what if someone comes to my door? So what are the thresholds that need to be met for you to qualify for employment equity?
For you to qualify to submit for employment equity, companies need to have 50 staff.
Okay.
Going up.
Okay, so anyone at 50
So remember I said 50 going up, so it doesn't count about the money.
Okay, cool.
So anybody with a staff profile of 50 going up, they need to comply with Department of Labor, submit their employment equity.
Sure. Okay. So anyone with 50 plus staff out there, please be aware because Department of Labor can come knocking at your door. And you know how it happens, it just happens.
Yeah, and also employment equity is not really only for people with 50 staff anymore. There are companies, those that are very small, but they are doing work with government, they are tendering. They also need to comply with employment equity. So whether you've got 2 or 10 employees, you will need to submit your employment equity for you to comply with your BEE. So that way it also gives you a better chances of getting more funding in terms of tendering and so forth.
Absolutely. It's lending back to what Business Lab does, which is compliance.
Yes.
And going back to what we're saying about it unlocking growth, a simple example like that saying that without employment equity being done, you don't have compliance to work with government or state.
Yes.
So employment equity, as you can see, it's quite an important discussion for us today. On your leadership and strategy, how do you plan on building on this existing foundation of Business Lab? You're saying it's 22 years old, and how are you planning on building on this foundation?
Okay, my aim with Business Lab, so I aim to build on a strong foundation for Business Lab, drive growth, innovation, and excellence that will position the company in a long-term success and also leadership in the industry. So we can also be out there. We can be known that Business Lab, this is what we do. We help companies to be compliant. So that's what my aim I want to do with the Business Lab, and also to develop a tailored solution that meets specific needs for different client segments, allowing us to serve a broader business, including SME, corporate, and public sector organizations. So, and also having a strong team, I'll still go back to a strong team. So I believe having a strong team and being a better leader for them. So we will definitely give a good service and our clients will remain happy.
I agree. And I think those who made the decision on appointing Julia knows that it's foundation on 22 years, and she will be the next one to take it to the next level. So, what do you think are the most critical skills or mindsets that entrepreneurs must have today in order to succeed? And how does Business Lab help them?
For that, so companies, we need to identify and assess skill gap analysis by creating targeted training and programs that addresses specific needs within the company, because every company is different industry, every company work differently. So you find that some people are they went to universities, but they lack the skills. So that's where we come in. We come in, we do skill gap analysis, and then we advise on which training and development that the company must do for the employees. And also the Business Lab encourages learning by offering ongoing development. So we will also monitor your training development and keep advising you should you forget, or then we keep advising that remember you need to still do a certain training to develop your employees. And also it helps when it comes to employment equity. So because you need to have a plan. So on your plan, you need, because it goes with different categories, right? So you need to also upskill. So it will help when it comes to your plan to promote your employees. So that's why we also need to do skip gap analysis and keep development within the companies. It goes with skills development, your workplace skills plan, and it ends with employment equity. So it helps with that. And also we also support career development by ensuring our skill development programs are aligned with individuals' career, aspiring and long-term goals of the businesses. So we're not gonna come and advise on something that is not gonna benefit your company. So we ensure that whatever development we advise, it aligns with the companies and the company's growth and your goals and missions.
So if I hear you correctly, it's the Business Lab takes the WSP, the employment equity, the BEE, the person's personal career goals, and you tailor make those learning pathways for the individuals so that the individual gets the promotion and the recognition they need, while the company is still benefiting of tax incentives, BEE points, the compliance, you don't have to pay any crazy fines.
And also it increases productivity. I mean, the more you keep developing your employees, the more knowledge also they gain. So they don't struggle when they do their work. So it also increases I believe it does increase their productivity.
Absolutely.
And also it brings new ideas to the business. So it can bring new ideas, grow the business, and also increase your, I want to say the money.
Yes.
Your
remuneration.
Your remuneration in the company. Yes.
Absolutely. And it's often overlooked, but I think it's beneficial for everybody, the employer, the employee.
Yes, everybody may benefit at the end of the day.
Yeah. So let's talk more about employment equity. So how does the Business Lab approach employment equity and the companies it supports, and why is it important for SMEs or companies that qualify to focus on employment equity?
So what we do as BizLab, we ensure that your company is compliant with employment equity, submissions and Department of Labor, as we assist developing and implementing strategies and promoting diversity and equal opportunities within your management structure, positively impacting your management control source. Remember, like you mentioned previously in apartheid, some people were being overlooked.
Yes.
So with employment equity, it helps for everyone to.
Yes. There's an EAP target.
Yes.
Maybe that's what people can understand. There's an EAP target. And basically these targets have been set out and mandated. So as you're saying, the equitable opportunity can be given at the relevant sort of seniority. So you're saying that like in management, it may have previously been all white males. It's now going to become more accessible and more mandated that black females have more opportunity in that seniority in the company. And that sounds fair. So what are some of the challenges that businesses in South Africa typically face when trying to implement employment equity? Because we know a lot of people are like, I don't want to, or if I do, it's going to raise a red flag to Department of Labor. And how does the Business Lab assist in implementing that?
So in terms of that, we assist companies, right? Because we will sit with your analysis and your plan, making sure that you also meet your targets. So we don't let you set targets that you're not going to be able to meet, because if you set targets that are impossible, Department of Labor will come for you. Say, you promise you're going to hire 10 females, but it's been 3 years down the line, your plan is still the same, but on your submission, nothing has changed.
Absolutely.
So we ensure that companies, they comply and set realistic targets.
Yes. And according to the Business Lab would then understand the company's best budgets and outcomes. I mean, if you're looking at their WSP and if you're looking at their spends and their threshold, you can best sort of tailor the programs accordingly.
Yes, accordingly, yes.
That makes sense to me. And can you share with us maybe any success stories that the Business Lab has helped people with employment equity?
Okay, what we have helped most of our clients. So we do have clients that we are submitting for employment equity. So we have helped them. So as when they get their inspections, we make sure that we are there. We assist them, and also we offer them a tailored employment equity plan services, helping business to set realistic goals, like I said. So, and making sure that it's industry specific targets and based on analysis of their workforce and industry benchmark, and also on the available skills.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And I can tell you a lot of people don't consider employment equity till you've now got the inspector at the door.
Yes, until the Department of Labor comes knock at your door, then that's when people start taking employment equity. Because sometimes you'll find somebody that they submit, they say, let me just submit for the sake of submitting, but not realizing that you need to have a plan, analysis, and stick to those plans. So employment equity doesn't come back to say, this is what you promised, this is what you have sent to us, but you're doing other things. So,
exactly.
And also ensuring that companies, they also employ people with disabilities.
Yes.
So we also are there to make sure that people with disabilities, they're not being overlooked.
Absolutely.
So that's what we do too.
And that's important. And I think some of the things that need to be, one important thing that needs to be understood is for a business, it may be as such that employment equity is not a top priority for them, right? Say they manufacturing paper, for example, right? If you're manufacturing paper, that's what they're focusing on. And it's not that they wish to overlook the employment equity or inclusivity isn't important in their mind. It's just the fact that they've got other things to worry about. So it's the Business Lab and partners like yourself that overlook this plan and then ensure that it's being complied with?
Yes.
Because if I understand, there's a lot of steps to employment equity.
Yes, there's a lot of steps to implement equity. So firstly, to do your submissions, right? So the Department of Labor get your submission, they look at it. Should they have questions, they will come back to you saying, okay, this is what we need from you. You know, your analysis, your plan, your EAP targets. And then you send back to them. So it's your inspection. So should they agree to what you're saying, then it's like, but should they have questions, they will also definitely come out to your offices to ensure that whatever you have submitted and said that you're going to implement, it's just not on paper. You're also implementing it with your staff, and also ensuring that companies, they have employment equity committee. So they must make sure that they are employees. You know, companies, that's what we also assist with, to do employment equity training, to train all the employees that they are aware of employment equity. Should Department of Labor come through to your businesses, so they are aware of employment equity. So come Department of Labor, they must just think that you just submitted, but you do not consult with the employees. So we make sure that companies also consult with their employees in terms of employment equity.
Because I know that's also a problem, right? If they come on and say, for example, it's just been submitted, you say, as an administrative task, and they ask anyone on the floor, for example,
or even the security at the gate.
No,
it's a problem.
It's a problem.
Yes, that's where we come in. We set a committee for you, and also every 3 months you need to sit with your committee, do meetings, and make sure that all your employees, you give them training, they are aware of employment equity.
Absolutely. We can say we enforce the law.
Yes.
So what are some of the key components of a successful employment equity plan, and how does the business lab help in guiding and developing these plans?
Okay, an organization can create employment equity plan, right? So not that only complies with legal requirements, but also that offers diversity. So an inclusive and equitable workplace that drives organization success. So it's not only about submitting, and also at the end of the day, it's going to be upskilling your employees, and it's going to come to successful for your company. So it's just not only submitted for the sake of Department of Labor. It's also, then it should also be a mission goals for your company, that upskilling and promoting in your company. At the end of the day, it's going to be beneficial for the company.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think, as you're saying, only byproduct business of this compliance is growth.
Yes, it's growth. So it's only growth, and also Department of Labor just making sure that the previously disadvantaged people, they're not being overlooked.
Absolutely.
So everybody just needs to be upskilled, promoted and growth, and that way also it will also help to maybe try to reduce the employment in our.
Absolutely. There's many drops that make up the ocean, and I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, the business lab over the last 22 years has been someone in industry that has really been driving socioeconomic change. So, as the new manager, how do you plan to integrate or expand employment equity with the business lab offerings?
To make sure that my plan is just to make sure that employers are prepared and implemented for the employment equity plan. So come the time for submissions, everybody has everything in order, so we don't miss the submission. Because should companies miss submissions, it's also another problem. Department of Labor will come for our clients and be 1.2 million. So ensuring that everybody submits their plan are in place, and EP targets, and we'll also advise them when it comes to targets and their numeral goals. And also making sure they must not overlook people with disabilities. So ensuring also that they do employ people with disabilities, and also having people with disabilities in your company, and you upskill them, in terms of learnerships. It also helps claiming your tax incentives, so you get more money claiming for people with disabilities. So it also helps for you to claim back your tax incentives. And also making sure that affirmation action measures they are intended taking to achieve the employment equity, making sure our clients achieve the employment equity goals. Come inspections, they met their goals, and there's no comeback or anything.
I don't think the inspector wants to really hear about any of that. So, in your view, how can SMEs balance the demands of employment equity, which is their business priorities, and especially being in South Africa, a challenging economic environment. Because I think this is going to be the next thing that a lot of people in their head are saying, yo, but I got to do employment equity and I also got to make money and we're in South Africa, considering everything. What is your answer to it?
My answer to be investing in training.
Yeah.
So it will, like, as you can see, employment equity, it goes to training. So
Yes.
it goes back to training because you need also to, the whole point of also employment equity is also monitor that you do train your people. So because
Yes.
you train your people, you are able to promote them.
Yes.
So it will all go back to investing in training and development of the existing employees,
Yes.
particularly those from underrepresented groups. Make sure
Yes.
that they get trained and developed. So this will help build skills and diverse the workplace from within, the reducing the needs for costly external recruitment. So training your employees, upskilling them, you don't need to go hire specialized people because you can give them that by doing skills development with them and promote them.
Absolutely.
Yes, and it will also cut costs for companies. Always making sure that you've got the skills that the company needs.
Yes.
It will cut cost for the companies.
Yeah.
And also we encourage internal mobility by promoting within, right? So which can be more cost effective, like I said, than hiring external and also supporting EE objectives.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and
tick, tick, tick.
Yes, and also, when you do your when you do your BE, it's also gonna help you with your scorecard. So you'll get a very good score rating and be compliant with BE.
Absolutely. I think we big believers on promoting with it. And I think just going back to the cost, it's price versus cost. The price of a service like the business lab is an X amount. The cost of not having the business lab is far much more, right? Besides the fines, we're talking about you having to hire new people when we could have literally just upskill your current workforce. So what role do you see employment equity playing in the broader mission of Business Lab to support SMEs growth and development?
Okay, the purpose for employment equity plan, right, is to enable employers to achieve reasonable progress towards employment equity, to assist in eliminating unfair discrimination and in the workplace, and to also achieve equitable representation of employees from undesignated groups by means of affirmative actions measures.
Okay. And tell me something, does this then speak back to when you say employee representation groups, are we talking unions, right?
Yes.
And so if unions are, if you're employing people who are highly represented by unions, in order to appease the unions, if I could say, it would be to ensure that they are getting equitable opportunity by getting the relevant skills development so that they may have an opportunity to progress. But that's what also appeases the union because that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, then you don't, then the employer won't have problem fighting with the unions anymore. Because union guys can be very impossible and difficult. But should you go according your targets and set goals, then I don't think you would have problems with unions.
And I think in some instances and a lot of instances in South Africa, I think the unions have a role to play, and it's good that they stay hard and impossible sometimes because in lots of ways they're fighting the powers that be. But that equitable opportunity is what they're fighting for. And sometimes the truth is maybe we don't have the possibility to remunerate the staff more, but we can give them training.
You can give them training.
Bursaries.
Yeah, you can give them training, bursaries, upskilling them. And also them being trained, skill developed, promoted, it gives them chances of also getting increases and going out and
hiring a whole new person.
Yes, hiring a whole new person.
Yeah.
And they can also be employable.
Yeah, absolutely. Win-win again for everyone. So what advice, in closing, Julia, would you give to small businesses that are struggling in South Africa right now?
I would advise them to ensure that in terms of compliance, they can come to us, we assist them with compliance. That way they are able to apply for funding. They are able to apply for tendering. So any sort of business they are able to do as long if their compliance is in order. So that way they will be able to grow their business. So compliance is number one for companies or business SMEs to grow their business.
Agreed. And I mean that goes all the way from aspirant to emerging to growing at any scale of business, it's compliance. Cool. So in closing, how can listeners get involved with the Business Lab and learn more about your services?
They can find our website at the bottom of the screen, and also they can get hold of us on 0100 3080. And also we are at 26 Market Street, Johannesburg North, and we are also based in Tongaat. We've got another branch in Tongaat, 83 Hospital Road. And the other way they can get hold of me is Julia L at the businesslab.co at the bizlab.co.za. Julia L at the bizlab.co.za. And yeah, we are here Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30, and we are available should anybody needs or want us to come out to them. We are also freely and openly to go out to businesses and to advise them what in terms of compliance, funding, when it also comes to SARS and also implement equity.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
So anyone looking to get a hold of the BizLab, you can get them at www.thebizlab.co.za. They're based over at 267 Market Street in North Riding, but I believe they have a national presence as well. So Julia L at the BizLab, that's THEBIZLAB.co.za.
Yes.
Just drop you an email. Perfect. Thank you.
For your business.
Thank you for tuning into our first episode of the BizTalks podcast, where you find your element of success. Today we covered employment equity, and over the next few weeks we'll be covering other important elements of success in your business, whether it be compliance, funding, and those sort of things. But thank you for tuning in, and we hope to see you on your next podcast. Thank you.